Last week, the state of Alabama executed a man on death row. Joe Nathan James Jr. was murdered by the state in the Department of Corrections in what they said was a relatively ordinary procedure. Isn't that wonderful? You know, the ordinary process of the state murdering a man. Now, in that very ordinary process of death, two female reporters who were covering the execution were singled out. They were singled out because they weren't dressed modestly enough for the occasion. Let me give you the details here. During that execution, prison officials had subjected female reporters who came as witnesses to the proceeding to a clothing inspection and attempted to bar one woman from the death chamber on grounds that her skirt was just too short. Priorities, Alabama. If anything illustrates the insanity of the right wing, it's being totally fine with the state-sanctioned murder of a criminal through lethal injection, but you draw the line at a short skirt. Hey, whoa. Hey, we're trying to have a classy murder here, okay? No. You go and you put on some longer pants, missy. You get a longer skirt. That is unacceptable here. Now, the reporter, and I apologize if I get her name wrong, Ivana Hiernkeu, a journalist for Ale.com, recounted how, it's Hiernkeu. She recounted how she was pulled aside by a prison official and told that her skirt was too short. She then said on Twitter, in a Twitter thread, I tried to pull my skirt to my hips to make the skirt longer, but I was told that it was still not appropriate. Just not appropriate. Officials also subjected another reporter from the Associated Press, Kim Chandler, to a full body inspection, making her stand to have the length of her clothing checked. Because, you know, Alabama, what in the ever-living fuck is going on there? What is going on here? I mean, look, you know what? We don't have to have a time machine. No, the further south you go in the United States towards Alabama, the further back in time you seem to go. You know, we're going back to the 1800s here. This is messed up and, again, incredibly backwards, considering how much at the same time, you know, or how at the same time, they spent 3 hours searching for a vein in which to inject a lethal concoction of poison into his veins. They spent 3 hours trying to locate that. Now, as I've talked about before, these executions, thanks to the drugs, of course, being difficult to find because the European Union, for example, they had gotten the majority of these drugs, said we don't want them being used in executions. We don't believe in the death penalty. We believe that in the United States, the states that still have the death penalty are backwards and insane. So no, we're not in favor of this. We're not going to sell you that anymore. And so a lot of these states that still have the death penalty had been searching for alternatives. And in the search for those alternatives, these executions end up being incredibly long, brutal, torturous affairs in which, yes, someone who has been convicted of murder, of doing terrible things, will be subjected to inhuman amounts of suffering for prolonged periods of time because, yeah, hey, we're just testing this out to see if we can kill you faster or better. I mean, this is just absolutely horrifying. Horrifying. No person, I don't care their crime, nobody deserves to deal with that, have to go through that. That's not justice. This doesn't make things better. It doesn't help the victims of them, of those people who had done these horrible crimes. And all that, but God forbid we see a toe. Yes, they also criticized Hiernkeu's shoes. She was wearing open-toed shoes. So now she ended up being able to watch the execution and to do her job, okay? But in order to do so, she ended up having to borrow a pair of waterproof fishing waders from a photographer And she attached their suspenders under her shirt to keep them up and was forced to grab a pair of tennis shoes from her car. You know, professional wear, right? She said on Twitter, I felt embarrassed to have my body and my clothes questioned in front of a room of people I mostly never met. I sat down, tried to stop blushing, and did my work. And of course, eventually Alabama did their work too, because James Jr. died that day, despite his daughters asking for a life sentence instead. So, look, he died as should anyone's belief that the right wing is pro-freedom. No, they're pro-murder, pro-control of women. And as one person on social media had noted in the thread, the fact that oversized men's rain gear and tennis shoes were considered more professional than a skirt and heels tells you everything that you need to know about how women are viewed in this country. Yes, that is absolutely true. Another person had noted too, my sister, a lawyer in Alabama, was publicly scolded for wearing a pantsuit to court. She was ordered to wear a skirt in that judge's courtroom, which I think is insane that they can order you to wear skirts. Alabama loves to tell women what to do with their bodies. And then noted that this was in a Montgomery courtroom about 12 years ago. I'm sure nothing has changed because nothing ever changes in Alabama. Well, because that would be communism, obviously. No. This wasn't about looking professional, okay? This was all about puritanical control over a woman's body.